And welcome you back to 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe to CoVA Sports TV and interact with us wherever you are. We now have with us a special guest. He is the head basketball coach of the Patriot Pioneers in Nokesville, victorious on Friday night over the Gainesville Cardinals in the Region 6B championship. It's their fifth championship in a row as they took them out of the playoffs. Pretty wide margin. They had a closer championship matchup in the Cedar Run District Tournament, but on Friday night, 88-54. His team now 22-3 overall, getting ready to play host to Landstown, the state quarterfinals. We say hello and congrats to Coach Sherman Rivers. Coach, thanks for stopping by. Life treating you pretty well?
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Morning, Sherman. Hey, just another walk in the park, huh?
Yeah. Well, our guys played well last night, so I was really proud of them.
Yeah, 88 points, and I want to touch on some of your players. I've watched you guys throughout the year on the NFHS and then also in person against Landstown, ironically enough, earlier in the campaign. But for you here, is this year, was this 11, 12 for you at Patriot? You're now becoming a KG veteran, right?
This is year 10.
Okay, and this is your sixth trip to the state tournament in 10 seasons. And, of course, people know you from all over the state from your days as a player, a heck of a player at Potomac High School there in Dumfries, then went on to play in college at William & Mary. But tell me about this particular team. What makes them unique? You brought back some key pieces from last year's state quarterfinal run, but what do you like about this group as you go into this Final Eight now? You have a chance at this thing.
I really like the experience, I think, of this group. We've had some games in this playoff run that, we've been down. Even last night we were down the first quarter, and they don't blink. They've been playing basketball together for a long time since they were little kids. So, and we got some very talented kids, especially on the offensive end for sure. Elijah Gaskins has been phenomenal in his career. Sean Madgill's having one of the best shooting years I've ever seen. Jeremiah Parrish is a matchup nightmare, and he's starting to come into his own as the season's ended and been one of probably our best player throughout the playoff run, I think, consistently. Noah Conrad is just, a jack of all trades, able to do a lot of different things, guard different players and do some different things offensively. And Christian Cole, he has the unfortunate part of being the underrated starter in our starting five, but he's just as good as the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Jeremiah Parrish, Coach, because I feel like he's the unsung hero of your group. We know about Gaskins being one of the best point guards in Virginia. Madrigal was lights out against Landstown with 9 threes, kept you in it, while Dame Robinson was having a great game, almost a triple-double that night for them with like 28 points, 12 boards, 7 assists. But when you have one of the best point guards, one of the best shooters in the state, you need those blue guys like the Coles and the Parishes. Tell me about just getting players, and I know Ed will be keen on this, being a basketball coach for many, many years like you, getting those role players to accept their roles and not wanting to command, 15, 20 shots a game and do the little things, be it taking charge, accepting of those little things they have to do. How do you get them to buy in?
It's just constant conversations with them. The biggest thing is you have to be honest with kids and tell them where they are and, where they can get to. You don't want to be sitting around and have them guessing what their role is. I'm pretty straightforward with our kids. We meet a lot and talk a lot, even when it's not just a formal meeting, about what they need to do and how they can help the team, but also improve themselves to put themselves in position to do the things they want to do.
Ed?
Well, when I hear Sherman saying about the constant talk, it's about those relationships that they can buy in. Because you said if you don't really make them understand the role, they're going to probably play a role that's not well suited for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes they'll think, hey, I'm shooting it right. You're not even in the game at this point. And again, I think it's very good for coaches to sit down. I like to do a preseason, sit down with everybody, ask them, okay, what do you think you're going to give us? And then I tell them what I think. So when they go out the door, there's an understanding. Because if they're telling me they're going to be the best defensive player I've ever seen, okay, now we get in practice and they can't cover me. Now we got to either you lied or you don't work hard enough. Which one is it? Because we got to fix this if that's what you said you are. So I understand that when that rolls. The thing I like to ask coaches is when you get this far, is there somebody, I know you don't want to just pinpoint maybe a person, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there somebody that came through for you at the beginning, right now, that maybe at the beginning of the year, back in November, October, you really weren't sure where they would be or how they would help you. But now you're kind of thinking in the back of your mind, and this kid really kicked in to help us. Anybody that comes to mind for you for that?
I would say off the bench would be the kid Tim Odell for us. Tim is an unsung hero. He's not going to put up anything that's in the stat sheet for people to be wowed by, but he's one of our best defenders. He gets us extra possessions. He's just a real big hustle guy. We had a couple games earlier where Noah had to sit out with an injury. And in one of those games, I want to say he had 11 rebounds. So it's just having those guys be able to do those things. Like I said, we have some really talented players, especially on the offensive end, like I said, with the guys that you mentioned. But those glue guys are extremely important. He jumps to the top of the list for me as far as someone I would think of for that. Chris Bethel, a sophomore for us, who's Elijah's backup, has gotten better and better and better, and what you would expect from a young player as the season's gone along. He had 6 points, 4 assists last night. He's just been doing a really good job of being able to keep our momentum when we take out our starter. So
We're chatting with Sherman Rivers. He's the head basketball coach of the Patriot Pioneers, region champs yet again for the fifth consecutive year. They defeat Gainesville 88-54 at 757 Sports Talk here on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. They'll be hosting Landstown coming up in the state quarters. Before we shift our attention to that matchup and the Class 6 bracket, I want to touch on this tournament for you because you had a lot of different guys step up. You mentioned the reserves there and unsung players to go with your headliners like Gaskins and Madrigal, but you were down in a couple of these playoff games, Coach. You were down, had a heck of a second half against Forest Park. Potomac, your alma mater, 68-62. I know you commented, and some others did too, it was one of the best high school basketball games they've ever seen, and you've played some classics, even going back to when Keith Honore was coaching before Anthony Mills took over. And a lot of people thought coming in, myself included, that Garfield had a real shot. They were 24-1, having a great year. They got knocked off by Independence, so I think Region 6B's had more intrigue to it this year than in past years, but everybody kind of is known for years here. It always feels like at some point Potomac and Patriot will collide, whether it's in the championship or the semis. This time it was in the semis.
yeah, it was. Clearly you have two of the best programs in the last 20 to 30 years in our county, and there's going to be a point in the season where we're going to collide because they're a very good program, and we're doing the things that we're doing on our side. So you would hope for their sake or our sake that it's in the regional championship because whoever the loser is still gets to advance. But the things fall how they fall, and we played them in the region semis this year, and we knew it was going to be tough. They came out, and I think that they played one of their best games of the year. Really shot the ball well. They're a tough physical team, and did some damage to us inside. And our guys, stayed resilient, didn't get down on themselves, and we were down majority of the game after the first quarter until the fourth, and then took the lead and just went from there.
Absolutely. And for you in those couple of comebacks, just a matter of the experience, having been there before, didn't flinch, wasn't worried at all. You knew how your team would respond in those moments being behind.
I'm confident in our group. We got guys that can put the ball in the hole, and you got guys that can score it. You're always going to be in the games. You got to get stops. Obviously, we know the playoffs is a different animal. Up until last night, I know we were averaging close to 80 during the regular season. Up until the game last night, we hadn't broke over 70, but we've been guarding. So if you can score it, and especially score it in bunches and get in bursts of those situations, getting stops, you always have a chance to come back. And that's why you do all that work in the regular season, because you can play at home in a comfortable environment that you're used to, and it's a little bit easier that way.
Absolutely. 3 wins away from a state championship. Patriot, who's been there a couple of times before, Ed, finishing runner-up to Hatfield and to South Lakes, trying to make it the third time the charm here with Sherman Rivers, our guest on CoVA Sports TV.
Sherman, I'm going to kind of go back a little bit. You played at Potomac, Matt said, correct?
Correct.
Was that under Kendall Hayes?
Yes, sir.
Give me some stuff on Kendall Hayes. I remember Kendall from back in the day. Great coach, great player himself when he played. And I'm sure you picked up a lot of info from and some things maybe you do now from Kendall.
Oh, I mean, listen, that was the foundation of everything that I'm doing. Obviously I picked up some things here and there. Obviously Keith Honore had an impact on that as well. Some coaches that I had overseas and coaches in college, and you try to take little bits and pieces from each one. But I think the foundation of everything that I do and how I approach the game really comes from him. All-time great coach. I think the best coach that that I've ever had. Just had a way to motivate people. First of all, to guard. It was always, you started there on the defensive end, but even though people thought we weren't doing anything as far as having sets on the offensive end, everything had a purpose. Everybody had to run to a spot, and then he just let us have the freedom to play from there. And As long as we defended at a high rate, he was pretty cool with what we did on the offensive end. Stories wise, he's one of the funniest people I've ever been around. It's kind of like a dry sense of humor, but he's had some moments, and this is one I wasn't actually there for. But I think it's one of the funniest stories I ever heard. And I remember getting told the story when he was sitting there. They're at a team camp, and I guess the referees weren't in favor of him too much as he thought. And so he comes out of a timeout. He tells two players to go stand on the ref, and so two guys are just guarding the referee during the game. And the referee's confused, like, why are these kids following me around the court? Finally, he blows whistle. What are you doing? and and he asked the kids, and the kids said, well, our coach told us to guard the guy that was killing us the most. I'm telling you, that one, I remember when he told me the story, and he's sitting there, he's like, well, he was killing us, so we had to double team him. And he just said it so matter of fact. So it's
That's
just
something.
those type of things. So
That's something Ed would do. Ed, one year, didn't you? You had a funny story. I remember with Mark Butts at team camp. Mark will come. I'm sure Mark is watching this. Former First Colonial coach in Virginia Wesleyan Hall of Fame will come on. You guys did something where you got ejected, or you did something with a referee. Oh, you shake your head now. You did something that was it was Kendall Hayes-esque.
I got Sherman. I got kicked out of a summer summer league game or team camp. A summer league game it was. Boo Williams Sportsplex, and the reason it was, referee made a call. Team scored on us. We took the ball out of bounds. We threw it inbounds. All of a sudden, the referee come running over. Hold on. I got a foul on red 23. I said, we just threw the ball in bounds. No, coach. It was on the previous play on the shot. I said, they made the shot. We took it out of bounds. What are you talking about?
I would have lost it too.
It was a young guy. He goes, Coach, you have to understand, we have to see a play all the way through before we make a call.
What?
I said, you couldn't have seen nothing on that situation, Tech. I said, you can't call Tech. That doesn't help you. I'm trying. This is a team camp. I'm trying to help you because the referee, supervisor officials were there. They were, evaluating officials. So I said, you delayed too long. We're not going to play. I'm not going to accept the technical. Second Tech, you're out. I said, I'm not going nowhere. It's a summer league game. Coach, you got to go. I said, I'm going to tell you one more time. I ain't going nowhere. And I didn't. So they walked off the court. So I grabbed the ball and I said to Mark Butts, first Colonial coach who were playing, I said, Mark, it's only about 2 minutes ago. Let's finish this up. Mark goes, Ed, I can't do this. And I'm like, all right, I'll referee myself. Now I got slides on and I'm at midcourt. I said, all right, inbound, let's go, let's play. And Boo Williams comes in and Boo's like, what's going on?
Boo's hysterical to this day about this story too, by the way.
And I said, Boo, officials left the court. So, I'm just going to go ahead and finish. I said, I can't do any worse. He said, Ed, no, we can't do this. Oh, my God. So we stopped the game. Now, here's the good part.
Saying that too.
Sherman, here's the good part. Duke Edsel, who's a very good official, ACC guy, he was evaluating the officials. He come to me after the game. I said, Duke, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to play. He said, no, Ed, I'm coming down and telling you, you were right. You're 100% right. He made a bad call. He delayed it too long. The technicals were too quick, weren't needed. He said, I just wanted to see if you want to get a referee's license for 2 minutes. You're a pretty damn good official. I said, no, I don't want that headache. So that's awesome. I had, of course, you laughed as long as I have, and as Kendall did. You're going to have some stories and things that come up.
Right.
Like there was another time at a team camp, I made another one. This was down, I think, in North Carolina State or somewhere. I said to an official, I said, hey, can you give coaches technicals for what they think about officials? He goes, Coach, I don't understand. What do you mean? What you think? No. I said, okay, good. I think you're doing a horrible job, and I don't know how the hell you got a license. And I got a text. I said, and the fact you lie. So, but, I just figured I was just trying to ask them. But I've been known to give some young officials in team camps some heat, especially when I know they're getting evaluated, because I'm trying to make the supervisors see what they do under a tough situation. You might get a coach like a Sherman Rivers type who's animated going crazy. How are you going to take care of Sherman Rivers?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I can tell you, I'm over there doing a lot, and I know I am, but I have, good relationships with those guys for the most part, and obviously, it's just, I got questions or I got concerns, and I'm pretty animated about how I say them. So, I just think it's just being passionate about what you're doing. Really, that's what it comes down to. And that's, and your stories and Kendall Hayes' stories are just honesty, and that's what we talked about with the players and just living in that space and being real about what you're doing. Sometimes your emotions are going to come out, and not always the best in other people's eyes, but it comes from a good place.
Well, I've always said if you're a coach that's into what you're doing and you care about the kids, emotion comes through. It's human nature.
Hmm.
You're going to play.
Absolutely.
You just got to be careful how you channel it, where it goes. Like I tell
Right.
young coaches, ain't no need to call referees names, cuss, swear, turn around,
No.
raise your hands
Right.
to the crowd. None of that's coming down to you. Number one, know the rule book before you start complaining about calls. You better know
Absolutely.
the rule book, because if you
Hmm.
don't, the referee can easily say to you, "Until you're on my level in rules, don't talk to me." And he's right, because they
And
have to know the rule.
this is true, but some of them say that and be dead wrong with the rule, and I'm right.
Hey, sure. Once again, I've quoted officials. I'll stand up and
Uh-huh.
yell at official. I said, "Come here. Rule 5, Article 4, Paragraph 7. Did you administer
Hmm.
that call that way?" And a guy told me this honest truth. I had this guy later on in the game. He came to me before the game. He said, "Coach, I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't know how you knew it, but that last time you told me that page number, the paragraph, and the article exactly, I don't know how you did." And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't remember saying that, but I guess I did. Then I just looked at him and said, "Well, it's my job to get on you, but I got to know the rule book. But if I know it better than you, you should be blowing a whistle." I remember telling him that. And then from that point on, we had a total respect from there on, never had any issues in games or whatever, because they got a
Absolutely.
job to do, I got a job to do.
For
And
sure.
and that's it. Sherman, I'm going to bring this back to your situation again, if Matt allows me. We got the time
Yep,
with you.
we have time.
And
Unless
this
he's got
came up,
practice and he's got to run. We got time. So
yeah, we
Oh,
got,
I'm good.
and
I'm good for
and
now.
yeah, and I got to run pretty soon myself. But my thing, Sherman, when you, as a coach, Matt and I talked
Mhm.
about this earlier, you're doing your substitutions and all that during the year. What changes for you, if anything, when it comes to substitution in playoffs as you're moving along into the state tournament, in terms of playing your bench? Do you kind of shorten it? Do you go to somebody maybe you haven't played a lot, maybe give them a few seconds early? How do you handle that when you get into your situations?
yeah.
I mean, our rotation is pretty much our rotation. The difference in the playoffs and the regular season for me is really the fourth quarter. Um, the fourth quarter in the playoffs, you're going to see the main guys be on the floor, and we're probably going to use timeouts for rests at that point. Unless a situation provides sub where it's like foul trouble, or one of those guys off the bench is just playing really well. So like the other day, I brought up Tim Odell's name, and Noah had a couple things going on, and he was playing really well, so he played down the stretch of the game. And our guys understand that they got to be ready, regardless. I might throw a guy in early that you see something, and substitution is all about feel sometimes. You have a guy that might not have been playing as much, and he can provide you something or a spark in that moment. So you grab him, you put him in, and that's why we keep preaching to our kids every day. Like, you got to be ready all the time. You don't know when your number's gonna get called, even though it might not have been the last game, it might be this game. So that's usually how I look at it.
Finishing up with Sherman Rivers, he's the head basketball coach of the Patriot Pioneers Region 6B champs. Our guest here on 757 Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe as they get ready to play host to the Landstown Eagles in the state quarterfinals, a rematch of last year's game they lost in the quarters, and also the Eagle Classic that they lost earlier during the regular season by a count of 70-62. We mentioned the great game from Madrigal with 27 points, 9 of 16 from 3, and Dame Robinson having 28 points, 12 boards, 7 assists in that contest. And Coach Rivers, a guy we can claim from the 757 Ed, because he ended his college career with the green and gold of William & Mary with 925 points, 400 rebounds, 272 assists. He's in the record book there at William & Mary in some of those categories. But, Coach, as we look at this matchup now with Landstown, you know what a program Dwight Robinson has, built on defense, guard play, athleticism. You're getting him in your gym again. What do you hope your guys have learned from the previous encounters that they can apply and turn around and get the outcome that you're looking for?
Well, the quarterfinal matchup last year, our guys clearly, we had a good season at that point. Won the district, won the region. But I think they weren't really ready for what that intensity was, and seeing the difference when the jump from playing, in your region against people that you've seen or might have seen you, to playing somebody from outside, especially 757 or Richmond area. So it was important for me to take this team and travel to different places this year so they could see it. And that way, if it presented itself again, which here we are, that it wasn't going to be such a big deal to them to be able to understand that they got to raise their level of intensity, but also realize there's a different level of physicality that comes with this game. So, I think that we're going to be more prepared from a mental standpoint this time. Our guys are a year older, a lot more experience. I like the depth we have on this team as far as the guys that what they provide off the bench, and we just got to go and get it done. It's always great to be at home too.
One more here before I let Ed jump in and finish with you, Coach. I got to be perfectly blunt and honest here with you. When I was looking at the brackets and here we do predictions and project, I thought it would be Landstown and Westfield, other side of the bracket, duking it out potentially in the state semis. This is no knock to obviously a Manchester team that did a heck of a job to beat them, rallying from 14 down. Gainesville from
Hmm.
your region, Edison or South County, or even George Marshall took Westfield to the wire, a team that's won 26 in a row. And I know you played earlier this season, but you duked them out in the quarterfinals now, Landstown, and your path was thinking you'd have that, but the pass or the pass at this point, it's all about it's
Yeah.
win or go home for these seniors and your kids that are trying to get some history, correct?
Yes, I mean you just like us. We clearly we look at it, we see how things are going to fall, and we were saying the same thing. We're like, well, if things go how we think they're going to go, Westfield and Landstown be on the other side of the bracket. And the other night we're sitting there and keeping updates of the game, and I'll say everybody's like, well, that changes that. And there was a brief segment like, oh, I can't believe it's the path, but the path is the path, and I always say this, you got to beat those teams at some point if you want to win the whole thing. So and rather get out of the way early and hopefully, get a chance to get to the last game. But we could sit here talking about, oh, we want to avoid this team and never even get a chance to play them, or we can get to that last game like we have two times and not play our best game in that situation. So it's one of those things. I know our kids will be motivated. Obviously, we played them early in the year and we lost that game, but they ended our season last year in the same situation. So
Yeah, we've had most of the year Landstown, Westfield, Patriot in some order, 1, 2, and 3, Ed, and you picked the Eagles last week to win the state championship, so it should be a heck of a battle coming up on Tuesday night, Coach Young.
Yeah, and of course, like I tell people, if you run your life by my picks, you need Jesus because it doesn't matter what I say. Heck, my team lost 12 games this year, so I try to pick us to win every game. But when you come into a situation like this, and I know you said that you're going to have to play these teams eventually somewhere, and of course, as coaches, we quietly say in the back of our mind, yeah, but I want to play the toughest team in the state championship because that's where you want to meet. You want the better teams to go there. And this time of the year, you know, who looks good is not always the best at this time of the year. It's getting hot at the right
sure.
time. Just like the NCAA tournament, everybody wants to pick number one, number two, number three, but maybe number 18 has been playing the hottest, and that's the team you got to look at. And
Hmm.
you look at matchups. And when you look at Landstown, we know they got great young backcourt. Two sophomores that don't play like sophomores. They really,
Right.
and I think if you're going to take them down, you got to dent that armor of that backcourt. Um,
Hmm.
Even though they are seasoned sophomores, they're still sophomores, and they're
Right.
kind of excitable sophomores. They really thrive when things are going crazy and things are maybe not going their way. They really do a decent job on that. And I know you can't divulge any tactics and whatever and how you're doing. You're just going to get out there and play your thing. Do
Hmm.
you look at Landstown as that backcourt is their strength, or is it their front court that maybe people are not giving a lot of love to? How do you look at them from an aspect of preparing for them?
I mean, we can talk about the players, but I mean, you got to start with Dwight and the job that he does. I have the utmost respect for him, and he always has his team prepared. They always play really hard. They're fundamentally sound. They run good stuff. Their kids are always where they're supposed to be, and that's how you know they're well coached. You add that in with having a great player like his son. It's one of those things that we know it starts there. You got to do the best you can to try to slow kids down like that. You're probably not going to stop them for the entire night, but you want to make it as difficult as possible. And then the other thing is, they have very talented players that are not necessarily in the same pub that Damien gets, but they're very good. And you can't let those guys get loose while trying to concentrate so much attention to him because, they can do some things and cause some damage as well. So, I mean, when at this point of the year, everybody's good. Everybody's got some depth. They got one or two guys that are gonna, could go off for 20 to 25. So you just try to do the best you can to be prepared, do the things that you do well. um, you know, I don't necessarily get in too much into when we scout as far as like all the sets that another team might run. because let's be real, high school kids aren't going to remember that. It's not like college where you get in-depth scouting reports. So you just got to make sure that your fundamentals are correct in how you guard, jumping to the ball, talking, doing those sorts of things. And if there's something that's a wrinkle in there that they haven't seen, then you mention that so they can be aware. But you just got to really execute the things you do at a high level, and at the end of the day, get stops and get buckets.
Well, it should be fun. And again, final one for you. It's Tuesday night. I should say Tuesday at 7:00 at your gym. Is that right?
7 o'clock.
7:00 up there at Patriot High School. The Landstown Eagles visiting the Patriot Pioneers. Winner moves on to the state semifinals against the winner of George Marshall and the Region C champ, which is today, South County and Thomas Edison. Sherman Rivers head basketball coach of the Region 6B champion, Patriot Pioneers. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. I'm sure we'll get you on soon, and I'm sure we'll get you on to talk about other topics down the road as well. I know you're going with our buddy Julian Brown on the Nova Legends podcast. Ed and I were ranting about the whole crazy girls situation going on in Region 4A, so I'm sure we'll get your take on some of these things, right?
Yeah, we've been talking about that in group messages. They're trying to get that figured out. I'm sure I'll get some more information from you at some point.
Absolutely. Well, I hope to see you down the road, Coach, and all the best.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Good luck, Sherman.
All right. Thanks.
Sherman